Welcome to the 90 Degree Show, the sports center for college marching bands where we recap the ultimate battles from this weekend. And now, here's our host, the Phantom Podcaster himself, Joe Beard.
Everyone, hello and welcome to the Prunalysis, part 90 Degree Show, part Prunalysis. I know that they're like brother and sister, but we still working out the whole naming rights for everything. But welcome to this Prunalysis of 2024. I have my beloved co-host, the one and only Rashad Waters, president and owner of Block Band Music and Publishing and one of the sponsors to the Marching Podcast. What's going on, man? How you doing?
What's happening, sir? It's good to talk to you, Joe. It's good to be back, man. We are live, huh?
Yes, we are live. And the crazy thing about it is that I was trying to look at all the stuff on like the YouTube channel and on all that stuff like that to see how long it's been. And I think it's been like 10 years. I need to like verify all of that, but man, it's been like 10 years since we did a Prunalysis. The last one you did, I believe it was one of these Battle of the Bands, but you had the low-key costume on.
Not when I was doing the review. I just used that as
the thumbnail,
as the header page.
Yes,
thumbnail, right?
But even still, it's funny to look at. You know what I'm saying? And then on the other thumbnails you had, it seemed like you was throwing like the all you can something or something, always
right,
very close to the color commentary. Are you guys still doing the color commentary? Still adjusting to this new format. I got a new computer doing everything, and so I can't do everything as quick as I can, but we're still working through it. It's back. It's good to be back. We were live a couple weeks ago with Bridget and Christy talking about really the bands, the year coming up and everything. And so we getting back into the saddle. So it was good to touch base with you on this one. And I believe that we're going to try to get something going this weekend, too, to have the conversation about the Pepsi National Battle of the Bands. And that's what we're going to talk about today, except it's going to be Prunalysis style. For those of you that don't know, this goes back to the fifth quarter forum, and Rashad was Prune Juice, and he would give his breakdown on the forum. And I think that's how I met you. But I think you reached out with Block Band and we were able to partnership, but I saw a lot of, the Prune Juice analysis. And so now putting everything together, we're able to do it on this video cast or this podcast. So yeah, man, like 10 years, man, which is crazy. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We'll be talking about this past weekend, and it was in Houston. And the lineup, I'm going to look at my notes here. It was Bethune-Cookman, Jackson State, Miles, Prairie View, Southern, and Tennessee State. So
Tuskegee.
Tuskegee was there too?
Yes.
Okay.
I think you're missing altogether Tuskegee, Miles, Texas Southern, Jackson, Bethune, Tennessee State, Prairie View, and Southern.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot.
Yes.
But they even talked about how it was basically an event and a weekend. So there was a whole bunch of stuff. I know on the website they had like a schedule of events starting on Friday. So, and Christy said it's a good event. So it seems like it went over well. And I'm hearing some things about the performance. We have an alumni association, Sonic Boom Alumni Association, and our trumpet section, Trump Funk, has our own group chat. So anytime something happens, I hear about it. But it's going to be good to hear about how the other bands did and how other people thought, everything went. So I'll pass it to you, Rashad, and I'll let you kick it off with your first band to get things going.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do things just a little bit differently today because I think this is a much more fair way to do it. Instead of starting from the first band and just listing them all and my opinions on it, I'm going to start with the band that I thought was the winner. Okay. And that was Southern University. I'm going to just go ahead and get that right out. Southern University, I thought, was the winner. I'm not going to say they were the clear winner. It was definitely a battle. There's no doubt about that. However, Southern University's band pulled it out. Now, why am I talking about them first? Because the first thing that Southern made on the field, other than playing a gospel song, was the formation for the word standard. And they said that Southern University's band is the standard of marching bands. And that's where I want to start, because that was the case, that they were the standard for marching bands. And now every other comment that I will say tonight is based off of how they compared to Southern. Because a lot of things with a lot of these bands, they really need to go back to the basics. We all want to play loud. We all want to play contemporary music, and we all want to dance and all those type of things. But really, your band is based off of the basics, and Southern has the basics down pat, at least as it pertains to marching. If you look at that band from any angle, they are going to look the same. They're going to march the same. I was just watching the show again a few minutes ago, and I'm watching everybody look identical. Marching style is identical throughout the entire band. The way the uniform fits, identical throughout the entire band. How they march. And one of the biggest problems that I have with most of the bands, most of them, is what I call getting out of the hole. What does that mean? Okay, so if you're marching 8 to 5, you get 8 steps that you take in order to get to the next yard line. Now, generally at that point, you're going to either keep going or you're going to turn around. Okay, if you do a to the rear, the hardest thing to do after marching 8 counts in one, look at all of these other bands, just about, you will see those problems that are happening as they're trying to drift, as they're trying to move from yard line to yard line. This is not a problem that Southern has. Another problem with turning is just the fact that the turn often is the low energy part of your show. You're marching 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you turn on 8, right? And now it's low energy for another 2 or 3 counts until you get your legs back up again. Southern does not have that problem. When they hit that turn, they flash. They look very sharp on that. So most of the other bands, that's where they're lacking. They really need to go back and analyze that marching style. Number one, make sure everybody's doing the exact same thing, exactly, as far as the marching style is concerned. And number two, making sure that you focus on your turns, because that is where the energy leaves your show. And number three, after you turn, making sure that you get out of the hole. If most of the other bands would focus on those things, all of them would go up. Okay. Now let's talk into the specifics of that. Okay. I'm gonna start with Tuskegee. Okay. For some of these bands, my Prunalysis is a little unfair, and so I'm going to be, I won't be so harsh on some of them because I didn't face them. They weren't facing me, so it's kind of hard to understand what they were doing from a sound standpoint. Okay, but from Tuskegee, my number one issue in general was why can't I talk today? What's the word? Is Tuskegee a tongue twister? All right, my number one issue, Joe, with Tuskegee was I just don't feel like they did a national battle of the bands show. I felt like they did a regular halftime show. You know, they started out with Erykah Badu, On and On, and they went to My First, My Last, Everything, Barry White. I felt the tempo on that was maybe a little slow for if you'll be the first band and you're really trying to set the field on fire. And there were some times where the announcer was kind of like, it reminded me almost like a nature show. Like, and you here we have the Tuskegee University Crimson Pipers doing such and such and the other. You know, again, it reminded me of, you know, a nature show. And here you see the cheetahs attacking the jackals right here. Just, it really needs to be a little bit more time and effort put into show planning. There are some bands, I'm not going to call them out and give them props right now, but there are some bands that I know that put a lot of effort, not just into all the things I talked about, the basics and all that type of stuff, because that's the first thing. But once you get all that, you got to put together a good show. It's got to flow. It's got to be energetic. It's got to tell a story in a way. And I just don't feel that Tuskegee did that. I feel that they performed well for what they did, but I just don't feel that their show planning was the best. So I would want for them to kind of look at that again and try to review their band as well as other bands to see, okay, what things work the best in order for us to have the very best presentation. Okay. You have any questions about Tuskegee, sir?
I did want to say that I know a lot of people were saying stuff about some of everybody. So I would say that you did the disclaimer as far as that, you know, you weren't in front of them or seeing, but it is also early. So maybe when they put together the show, you know, they did the best they could as far as putting together like a show or something that they're also going to halfway be prepared for in their first game.
Right.
I'm guessing their first game is tomorrow or this weekend, like a lot of schools. But it is early. That's the thing. And that's one thing that I always thought about with this Battle of the Bands and even the one in Charlotte next week is that it's before the season's going.
Right.
And so I don't know when band camp started. I know for us, traditionally, band camp always started like maybe the second week of August or something like that. So they probably had about 2 weeks. So I like to see a band like full swing, and that's maybe in the middle of the season or at the end or something. But
right.
Yeah, that's kind of a critique I always had about the Battle of the Bands before the season, you know. So I'm sure that their directors were probably thinking that too. So,
right.
So yeah, I did want to add that as far as how the bands performed.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that it is very, very tough. But you know, I have to judge them all on the same playing field because they're all doing
it amount of time, right?
So, all right, let's go over into Miles. Of course, Miles is always going to start with neck. They're always going to start that. You know, every time they go right there, neck, and they're going to be jumping and doing their thing. So right from the beginning, let's talk about Miles as far as the things that I had mentioned about Southern. Again, it's a matter of tightening up on their basics. I think Miles has a pretty good show concept, but the basics as far as playing and marching, those are the things that the band needs to tighten up on. And dancing. So right from the beginning, when you're watching them, you know, they're jumping in the air and dancing and stuff to neck. Well, like I'm watching one guy and he's jumping like way up in the air, turning around. Another person's kind of jumping a little bit. That stuff makes a difference. It shouldn't just be, you know, everybody free for all and do what you want to do. This is band. You should have a bond.
Are people sticking out?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, we got to define what is the movement here. Are we all jumping, you know, like Olympic hurdlers here? Or are we jumping just a couple inches? We need to determine exactly what that is, and everybody needs to do that. And that's going to have a much better effect. Same thing with the marching style. You can see a lot of differentiation as far as the marching style is concerned, and that's got to be tight because that makes the difference. If you can get that looking good, that improves the energy of the whole show. And trombones, my Lord. And I think this was Tuskegee as well. Get those horns up, man. There's nothing worse than seeing a couple trombone players with their horns kind of sticking down. You got a huge pole as a big visual object. Everybody's looking at trombones. Get your horns up, man. You know? I mean, there's nothing that looks better than a whole bunch of trombones in a line, all with their horns, let's say 15 degrees above parallel. It just looks good, and it looks bad when you have people at different heights. The next thing, so when they did their arrow, they made it like an arrow as they were marching down the field here. Again, straight lines weren't really there, but again, that comes back to the marching style. If the marching style is tight, then that will get all of those formations tight. Okay. The next thing, man, I hate the evil. It is a lot of pressure, and you know what I mean. And I'm not trying to attack anybody individually, but yeah, the singer was a little out of tune.
The singer
right at the beginning.
Miles had a singer.
From, yes, they had a singer. I know in your mind that means they automatically call an L. I know that what that means. They played "Open My Heart," and I thought that was a good musical choice. It may have been better if they had just played it, because again, unfortunately, the singer was really out of tune starting out. And again, I hate to say it, but I have to be prune juice. I have to tell it like it is. If I don't tell it like it is, then people won't believe what I say. Okay. And then she moved on to that. They started playing Melodies from Heaven, which was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. And they modulated two times while they were playing that. And then she was singing a little bit on that, which I'm not sure if that was helpful or not. Maybe it was, because it helped us to know what the song was and made us sing. But I thought that she was just going to sing and be done. But overall, Miles' performance was okay. The energy was there, but they just need to go back to the basics and get all those things tight. And if they can get the basics tight, then I think they're going to have a much improved. The same thing with the sound. I can't put my finger on exactly what it was, but the sound wasn't tight as well. Whatever their particular sound concept is going to be, everybody in the band didn't buy into that. You know, maybe in terms of attack, sustain, release, everybody in the band didn't buy into that exact same thing. So if they can get those basics tight, I think they're going to be incredible. All right. What question?
And I do want to say, of course, it's early, but I always want to give a shout out to Brother Snipes. I love me some Brother Snipes. But I did hear criticism mostly from them, like, you know, just the online, you know, the social media aspect. I heard most people being critical about Miles.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I still have that feeling. I mean, playing the gospel songs and somebody singing. I'm sorry, I really tried to change, because I understand why people do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the singing part, it just, to me, it never feels like it fits with a band. It's not like it's on stage, you know, at a poetry reading. It's a humongous marching band, and it's a field, and it's so much with the acoustics and the sound. I've just never been a fan of it. So I understand why people do it, and sometimes people pull it off, but I always felt like it's just a lower percentage when somebody sings with the band. It's just not my thing, man. You know.
Well, one of the bands was able to pull it off, and so I'll talk about that when I get to.
It's a little teaser right there.
Yeah, yes sir. All right, let's go ahead and get to Texas Southern next. This band, again, was really unfair for me to judge, and so unfortunately, I'm not going to have a whole lot to say about them. I feel like their energy was very, very good, but for most of the show, they were facing away from me, so I really couldn't give you a fair judgment on how they were sounding in terms of the band overall. And that being the case, unfortunately, I don't remember a whole lot of this. I'm going off of memory here. What I do remember about them is the fact that they are very similar to how Southern has been traditionally. Of course, their band director went to Southern, so there's a lot of things that immediately strike. Oh, that's how Southern used to do it right there. So, but unfortunately, I'm not going to have a lot to be able to say. Perhaps you talked about doing a second one. Maybe I'll be able to go back and review. Maybe, you know, you mentioned doing a second show. Maybe that is what I'll do. I'll go back and watch the bands that I didn't see from the front, and perhaps do another Prunalysis on those particular bands specifically, so that I can truly rank them. But that's all I'm going to say about Texas Southern. All right, so let's go to Jackson. Oh my goodness,
the greatest music program in the galaxy, Jackson State University. I mean, hey, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, that's me. So, you know, you always got to add that before everything, and the runner up to the band of the year last year, and that's another conversation. But
That is
yeah,
the whole conversation. So yes. So I just want to say that yes, Jackson performed. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and go on and talk about Bethune-Cookman. So
hold on, man. I
um
wish I had my. I give you a round of applause on
don't. All right. So man, let me tell you, I have heard a lot of bands in my life. I really have. And I don't think I've ever heard anything as loud as Jackson opening up. They made Sonic Boom on the field and they opened up. And let me tell you, Joe, I could feel the sound. The sound was tear jerkingly loud. Like literally, like I was like tears were coming out of my eyes. Cause like this is so loud and I'm so happy to be here right now. And they sounded so good. They weren't just loud and sounded sloppy. They sounded so good, man. I just have to give them credit. And unfortunately, if you weren't, for people who weren't there, sorry that fits you, but you'll never be able to experience what I'm talking about. Because I just watch, the videos of Southern and Jackson stuff, and it's like the video does not give you a true estimate, a representation of what it was that you're hearing, because the camera's going to filter out that sound. So it's no comparison. That was fantastic, and it was incredible. Okay, at the very beginning, the trumpets came in. They were a little out of tune from each other, but man, were they screaming! And let's see, they did "Call Me," which is "Call Me." Okay, I gotta say this, and I don't know why bands are still doing this after like 30, 40 years of doing this type of stuff. Face the front during the chorus. I don't know why that's so hard. Bands just don't want to do it. When you get to the most important part of the song, come here. I know I'm doing it in a different key, but that's what should happen, because the verse, people are trying to figure out what the song is. When you get to the chorus, that's when they know what it is. That's when you should hit them. Mm-hmm. So adjust your drills so that you're doing most of your drilling during the verse. But when you hit that chorus, man, we want to hear the chorus.
Right.
All right. Then the drum majors came out in the middle of that. And man, my goodness, they nailed it, bro. Them drum majors were fantastic, bro. All of them, man. And their drill was pretty complicated. They made a lot of, smaller formations and stuff, but how they did it, they're doing very good on the job. They went into Portuguese Love by Tina Marie. And I love the trombone glisses. Da 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 da. Wow. Da 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 da. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I'm always gonna love my trombones here. I got a little complaint though. During the first verse melody, the melody is lost. There's a lot going on. I think it's the baritones who have it, but it's kind of hard to hear what's going on. It almost sounds like it's the baritones and some of the trombones, but the trombones that are playing the chords are definitely drowning out or competing with the melody. So I would suggest that they adjust that. Once the trumpets come in, it's fine, but before that, it's like, what's the melody here? Then they went into a Lady Gaga song, and again, the trombones were sounding good. I've never been the biggest fan of a whole bunch of trombones. Like, the J set should respond to that, because the energy of the band goes down a little bit. So to me, they should have responded to that. Instead, they were just going on with their routine. They had an opportunity to really capitalize on what was going on with the music by bringing down their energy down for a second. And then when the whole band comes back in again, then pop again. So that's just one thing. Not just doing 8 counts and things, but actually fitting the dance in order to fit the music. All right. Let's see here. Set free. Oh, then they did Set Fire to the Ring. They did like a small drill to that as they were splitting the band into portions, and that was cool. That looked good. It seemed a little slow. I would have picked up the tempo. They made Vote on the field. They did not hold that long enough. If you're going to make it, and again, I have to go back to the Southern setting that example. Southern is known for, making coke on the field, and boom, they hit you, and they march in that formation for 16 counts or whatever like that, so the audience can really appreciate what it is that they're looking at. And so they made vote on the field, and they marched it forward, and that was cool, but it was gone in like 8 counts. So the audience didn't have the opportunity to respond to it. And I just got to say that Jackson State showed, I think the energy started to go down towards the end. Again, that comes back to show planning. I think they had a lot of cool ideas, but the execution of the ideas themselves, the ideas themselves may not have come together quite as well as they did at the beginning. The beginning was on fire. The sonic boom on the field. I didn't say it. They made NBOB for National Battle Bands on the field. The Call Me, the drum majors, so much high energy. The Portuguese love energy, energy, energy. And then at the end of the show, it did kind of die down a little bit. I'm not sure if they should continue doing. Maybe it's just what they do every time. What is it called, Joe? Dun, 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 dun,
Jay.
dun. What is that called?
Rock the House.
Rock the House. I'm not sure if they should do Rock the House everywhere that they go. Maybe they should. Maybe they shouldn't.
Yeah, that's probably not.
Do they do that?
Ever. Yeah.
Do they do that every home?
Every time, all the time. Yeah, I don't. Even like a variation. I've seen them change Rock the House, like the formation. Sometimes they go and run into the J, and then they run into an S, and then a U. They've changed the variation, but that is always our punctuation. Is Rock the House. Yep.
Okay. The only problem with Rock the House is it rocks the house when you're at home, or it rocks the house when you're somewhere near home. But they just didn't have the crowd when they were doing that. So it just ended up being something that was happening, and people are just watching it. You know what I mean? And so, again, that's something that ended up kind of bringing the energy down. So I don't know if it's something that they need to judge when they're going to do it or not. And then they ended with like a variation of Get Ready, because Here I Come. And, again, it just... I don't know, maybe a sideline blowdown like they've been known to do before, I think would have really put, like you said, the punctuation on it a little bit better. So that was my problem with Jackson, that the energy just kind of took it out towards the end, not because they ran out of energy, but just because the show itself. But from a marching standpoint, when I talk about the basics and things, they were very good. Were they as tight as Southern? No.
Oh, that hurts. Oh.
Yeah. But they were tighter than nearly every other band that was there in terms of marching style as far as getting out of the hole. So if they can continue to work on those basics, they're really going to give Southern a hard way to go. And I will say that at that point when Jackson came on the field, it seemed like it was over for every other band. All right, let's go on to the next.
So real quick, Rashad, that's definitely setting it up for the boombox then for this year. Yeah. That's gonna be, that sounds like that's gonna be interesting.
It is because I will tell you the stands battle was not the same. Southern was not the best stands battle band. That was Jackson. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what's going to happen there. All right. Let's go to Bethune-Cookman. Again, unfortunately, same thing with Texas Southern. I did not see them from the front, so I don't have a tremendous amount to say. I was just kind of peeking over real quick to remind myself of some of the things. And I got to say, Bethune was Bethuning. As far as their marching style, as far as their dancing is concerned, my Lord, they are so uniform. They are so tight. I really may have to go back through and reevaluate and see where I had put them, because I didn't have them in the top 3. But I may have to go back here and put them there, because just from what I saw again, I mean, everything was so tight. What I want to point out, though, is the song Made for Me, which was sang by, they actually brought out the singer, Moni Love, and it sounded good. She was on it. She was professional. I was concerned about how this was going to come over after Miles did their thing, but no, she was on it. So I got to give him credit for that.
Wow. So, and Moni Love, the rapper?
Well, she's a singer. She sings that song Made for Me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
I was thinking about one thing about Bethune, man. I always see them as the Tecmo Bowl crowd. That's them. And it sounds like that they ain't changed. They're under the same director still. So it's good that they're still doing their thing after all these years, after you and I have talked about them. But it sounds like they still the same. I mean, you were just talking about that uniformity with Miles. But Bethune, it seemed like that's like one of their bread and butters is that uniformity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. I definitely got to give them credit. And they're right up there with Southern. 100%. 100% right there. Okay. I'm not sure about the actual marching, but the marching style. And I only say that because I just don't remember. The marching style itself, though, yes, 100% right up there with Southern. All right. Going on to
hold on, Rashad, real quick. I do want to give some to love the people in the chat. Scarfinger Hood Rich, what's going on, man? Good to see you.
What a name!
I know it's a great name, and him and I have the same birthday, so you know the brother is on point. But he said in the chat, Muni Long. Is that the correct? Because when he said Moni Love, I was thinking about Moni in the middle. Where's she at in the middle?
Moni Long. That's right.
Okay,
Long.
bet. Okay, I appreciate that, Scarfinger.
I am not as young as I used to be, so thank you.
Right. That's what's up.
Anything else?
No. That was it. Yeah. Because when you said Moni Love, I was like, she was rapping? Or she was singing? That's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's what threw me off.
Okay. Gotcha. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to give as many props as I would like to the next two bands. The next one was Tennessee State, which has always been one of my favorite bands. I love Tennessee State because you truly never know what to expect from them. You just don't. They're going to go out there and do something different every single time. I just have never seen them. In many of the Battle of the Bands that I've been to, I just have never seen them win. You know, at least, and of course, winning is always subjective because there's only really been like one or two winners of the Honda, you know. But just in terms of like everybody's agreeing or even my own personal opinion.
Right. It's even across the board. Like
has ever won.
Right. I was just thinking that even across the board, like when we see stuff on social media or something, you always seem to have like a band that's like the consensus. You know what I mean? Like they say, oh, you know, A&T won, something like that. I haven't personally seen that with Tennessee State. They seem to be underrated a lot, but then at the same time, man, like you never see that, oh, Tennessee State was the best band. Yeah, I just hadn't heard it like that.
Right. And I would love to see that one day because I love their creativity. I would love to see Tennessee State be the number one band because I think they have a fantastic sound. They have a lot of sound. They really have refined that sound, and they do some creative things. But again, it just comes down to just sharpening up and tightening up on those little details. But I think that Tennessee State just tends to, oh no, I made a mistake, y'all. I made a mistake. I just gave props to Jackson for making NBOB, but it was Tennessee State that made that. I actually have Tennessee State playing right now. So sorry. I know you have burned the Prunalysis. You burned my body in effigy. So sorry about that. Yes, it was Tennessee State that made that. But again, that goes back to that creativity, making an NBOB on the field. And then at the end, they made 95 degrees, which is something I want to point out. There wasn't a lot of really cool drilling this show. There was a lot of like, how should I say, 8 to 5, drilling. There wasn't a lot of band pageantry. That's what I'm trying to say. Making things on the field. Like if you watch FAMU, start out with the Olympic rings or something. You didn't really see a lot of that. Now, I believe it was, Prairie View, I think they tried to make somebody go to the ballot box or something. I don't know. I was watching it from underneath, and I just said, "What? I don't know what's happening." But there wasn't a whole lot of cool, formations and things like that. So I do applaud, Tennessee State for at least making 95 degrees on the end of it. And again, I think they had a decent show. It just tightening up on things, and I think they will continue eventually to move it to that number one spot. Okay. Now let me go over to Prairie View. Oh boy, Prairie View. Okay, so I'm gonna sum up my feelings about Prairie View with just two words, Joe. And these words may seem to most people inconsequential. But those two words are bass drums.
Bass
And
drums.
yeah, I know you was like, what? Bass drums? Yeah, bass drums. There was four bass drums and they were never together. And that is a bigger problem than you know, because that's literally the pulse of the band. And see, the number one problem they had is that Prairie View wanted to show how big that they were, and so they stretched like from the 5 yard line to like the 5 yard line. Okay.
Oh
Well,
wow. Okay.
if your bass drums are not in sync, then you that as if you're on the 5 yard line, it's hard enough to hear the percussion section in general just to stay in sync. But if they're not together, what are you listening to? The average of the bass drums?
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? And so they were definitely having some phasing problems right from the beginning. Not huge problems where the band got completely off, but in order for your band to sound the best, everybody's got to
It's
be
got yeah, that rhythm. Yeah.
it's got to be in sync, and they weren't, and that was throughout the show. It never got better. The bass drums were always not together, and so that is definitely the Achilles heel of the band right now, which is so odd because Mick Funk box is like their claim to fame,
Yeah.
you
It
know,
is.
percussion section. So it's like, well, dog, how you gonna have the percussion section be your Achilles heel, and that's the number one thing that you really are putting out there, you know? So the other problem with that is that not only were the bass drums not together, but the tenor drums use the same type of heads. Now the tenor drums work together, but the problem is the tenor drums and the bass drums sound very similar to each other. You know, so if you already have bass drums that are not in sync and the tenor drums are kind of playing the off notes around it, now you really have a lot of clutter. And now it's really, really hard to determine what's going on. And so again, that was really the issue. This is definitely not the best I've seen Prairie View. The very first Honda that I went to, I saw Prairie View and they took it.
I
You know,
remember that.
bands like
I remember
yeah,
that.
bands like Sam and Bethune was supposed to take the Honda, and Prairie View came out there and they snatched that thing up, and I was like, wow, that is amazing,
I
and that
remember
is
that.
yeah.
And so I do want to add something. Lamik's video. What's up, Lamik? What's going on? And both
Oh,
Scarfinger.
that's man. Yeah, I'm learning about all kinds of high school bands all across the nation due to that guy.
Yeah. So he said that they're the Marching Storm drumline now. Or they are, and Scarfinger said they're MSD now. No more box. That's what Lamik said.
Oh, there's a story. There's a story. There's a story.
Somebody got in trouble, and the
Somebody
director
got in trouble.
came in there and said, "No more," saying none of that. You know what I'm saying? We starting over, and y'all better stop doing whatever y'all was doing. That's what happened.
Man, bring back the Mick Funk box.
Right. Bring back all the ignorance. You know
Right,
what I'm
right.
saying? We can clean it up.
Because
You
the
know.
ignorance has got them boys on point as far as the percussion section is concerned. Because I've never heard them problems before. So always nice to have people joining in and giving us those insights. I appreciate
I
that.
know, right?
Um,
Appreciate it.
they had the female announcer, and I just don't think that went over. Her in particular went over as well as they might have wanted to. Particularly when she was singing about the vote part, and she was like, Southern Bethune, Texas Southern is TT. But Tuskegee, Miles, Jackson is TT. Okay, okay. I guess maybe that's what she does. I don't know, but I don't know that it just went over. And when she was just singing about voting, I just don't know how I feel about it because I thought it was cool that if they were going to sing about anything, they were singing about getting people out to vote.
Right.
I just don't know that I wanted to hear her singing about
Yeah.
it.
And they said that in the chat too. I think Lamik said that as soon as you said Prairie View, he said the announcer with the laughy face on it. So I figure something must have happened with that. I do kind of want to say there are a lot of announcers that try too hard, Rashad. I mean, that's just how I personally feel. The one guy at FAM, I don't know if he's the same one, but he seems to be pretty smooth. He has his groove.
He's perfect.
Yeah,
He
yes.
just the band finishes performing. He just says, "There's only one."
There's only one. Or anytime, any place, in stereo.
It's serious.
You know what I'm saying? So he's dope.
Right.
But there are a lot of people, a lot of programs, a lot of schools, and they trying like too hard for the announcer. The band should be enough. Like they gonna do their thing, but just be the supplement. Don't try to come out there and be too much. I guess.
Right.
I guess that's what I'm saying, because I don't come there for the announcer. You know what I'm saying? So when I heard that there were other people talking about it, I was like, man, I didn't necessarily want to hear that, but you don't need to do anything. If your band is dope, you don't really have to say too much. You should be good.
The announcer is the seasoning,
right?
You know what I mean? Like when the band, like the announcer should fill in the gaps. Speaking of which, I'm glad that you brought that up because I had talked about how Texas Southern was like Southern in a lot of ways. I don't know if they have the same announcer that Southern has had in the past. The moving, the grooving, the Southern University marching band from the Jaguar Land, the S on the best list. They're the best. Like the guy from Texas Southern sounded just like that.
Oh, really?
Yes, he sounded just like that. It's the motion of the ocean, the moving and the grooving. Like his cadence, everything was like, dang, that's just like Southern. The Texas Southern University marching. Okay. All right. Prairie View, again, going back to their performance overall, their lines, man, like the formations, the straight line. And I even saw on Facebook, like somebody posted like a picture of their straight line across the field. And it was like, and they said, Prairie View, you can do better.
Oh.
And I do want to see them do better and focus on those details. I don't know, man. Prairie View has typically been a better band than this. And we don't know what's going on in these band programs. You never know. You know what I mean? Maybe they couldn't get into their dorm, a week into it. Who knows?
Right.
But the audience, it's not the audience's responsibility to know this or care about it, unfortunately. Only our responsibility is to watch the show and express our feelings about it. And it needs to be a lot of tightening. As far as Prairie View was concerned, I was pretty disappointed. But they're a good band overall, and I really look forward to seeing how they're going to continue to progress and pull things together as far as the year is concerned. All right.
And really quick, and so Lamik said Joe Bullard is the guy at FAM. And then Scarfinger said the A&T announcer still be talking about drumline 20 years later, and I thought that was funny. But yeah, I think you made an interesting point. Bridget, we love Bridget, and I know that we're gonna probably talk about this weekend. First of all, for all you watching, Bridget Bell knows everybody.
She does. You get pictures with everybody.
She knows everybody. Like people I find on Facebook or something, or they're connected, because with band, all of us know each other, or like we friends, or we halfway connected.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'll connect with someone, and Bridget be like, "Oh yeah, we was at the mall yesterday." And I was like, "Yeah." So Bridget knows everybody. Now I want to say that because she said like a little something on Facebook about, kind of like her Prunalysis, if you will, and she basically, was saying that, and I let her break it down, but she knew everything, what each program is like going through, and could have a synopsis on the breakdown of their show. Just what you said, Rashad. We don't know what's going on with it. Bridget does.
Right.
So like she already knew, and she could say, "Oh well, this was going on. This is going on." So I was just like, so Bridget. I always shout out to Bridget because I remember again how she came on the show talking about schools and scholarships and all of that. She just knows so many people, man. And I think that she said the same thing with you. I think, and I'll let her say it, but I think she said that Southern was like really good. I think she said it too.
They said, she said they were the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I wouldn't say undisputedly the best.
Of course.
But I would say yes, they were the best. And speaking of the S on the chest, that lets you know that they're the best, apparently. Southern University. All right. So they started out their show a little differently. They started out by playing Precious. They called him L. to
Wait,
you,
hold on,
Joe.
cause it looked
But
like it
man,
was
that sound,
a little pause in the stream. What did you just say?
oh, I gotta repeat it. I said the first thing they did was they came out there and they played Precious Lord. That's the very first thing they did.
Southern?
So I don't know if they called it yes.
Oh,
Yes.
oh.
They wa- they wanted to recognize the fact that they had lost some band members over the course of the last year or so.
See, Rashad, you should have led with that. Now I feel bad. Now, oh, that hurt. That hurt. So yeah, that nullifies. Yeah, that's okay. So that's okay. Yeah, that's okay.
Look through the rule book. Okay, that's the exception. Line 54.
That's okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
That's thumbs up, Southern. You know what I'm saying? Oh, and shout out to Garrett. I believe that he's gonna come out to LA. So I'm excited to see him finally in person. So shout out to the Edge.
Okay. Yes, we love to see Garrett. He's always helping out, letting us know the songs and stuff. Great video footage of the Human Jukebox. A little bit of a phasing issue, not very much, not very noticeable, but you can tell the band is not 100% together. It's like 99% together. You know what I mean? But overall, the sound is very deep and very rich. It's some of the best playing I've ever heard Southern do because, growing up in the 90s, Southern didn't do that. They didn't do deep and rich.
Right.
They did crank and stank.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Hit you over the head with a brick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A very sharp brick.
Right.
But no, this sound was very rich, full. It was not as powerful as Jackson's, which is such a interesting turnabout.
Crazy.
In the fact Southern has always been that band in terms of power, and to be edged out by Jackson now is just interesting. And their sound is not quite as developed as Jackson. I cannot put my finger on it. It's bright. It's a brightness that's there, and it's not just a difference in how they play. I understand that. I've been listening to bands for a while. It's not just Southern sounds like this and Jackson sounds like this. No, it goes beyond their playing style. There's a certain brightness right there in the low brass, I believe, that Jackson is different on, and then they have a richer sound than Southern. But overall, Southern did sound very, very good. And they had a nice mellophone run right in the middle of that thing. That was cool. And let me tell you, man, they woke up the crowd. I don't know if it was just me, but I don't think it was just me. But by the time we get 7 bands in, I love bands, but bro, 7 bands in,
right. Right.
Ready for this to be over. You know what I mean? And Southern came out there and boom, they hit us with that. And then they immediately went into their regular formations and brought out the drum major, and he did his thing. He had to take 2 steps back after he came back up, but it was still exciting. I told you they made standard on the field, and they started marching to Love Come Down. And the thing I love about them is that tempo, the boom, boom, boom. They're going, which is something I think that Jackson maybe could have taken advantage of. I felt like some of their drills were a little on the slow side in terms of, and so the slower it is, the kind of the less energy that you can have sometimes. They did a really cool effect that I hadn't seen them do before, where they made like several diamonds that were all connected in links, and then each one of the links turned around, so they did a cape flash, and then they took a knee, which looked cool from the front, but I watched video later and you can really see the effect of it. It's like, oh, that was actually cool. And then before they started playing again, then they kind of slowly got up, which was cool because it helped with the anticipation of what's about to happen next. They didn't jump right into the song, but it took a couple of counts before they got into it. Okay. Again, I got to talk about the marching, that uniformity in their marching style. Then they got into their fast song. I believe it was Lady Gaga? I didn't write it down. Again, comparing Jackson and Southern here, it was the runs in the trumpet section that really did it for me. When Jackson played their fast song, there were some runs going on, mainly in the baritones, and they were descending runs, and they were okay. But Southern was hitting us, And those little things in there were really, really punching. And it was necessary because Southern has a little bit of a problem as far as balance is concerned. Their low brass section kind of eats their trumpet section for lunch.
Yep, all the
But
time.
because they're hitting those runs and things like that, and they really have an opportunity to stick out like that, it allows it kind of helps with that balance problem a little bit. Okay. They ran into "Can You Stand the Rain," which I thought was interesting. That was arranged by Kenny Collins, who had actually arranged the song for Block Band before he arranged it for Southern. So it's definitely some similarities in the arrangement there. I thought that was pretty cool. The entrance at the very beginning wasn't quite together, but I love the forzados and the trombones. Run on, and they back off again. Those are really, really cool. Good job with the trombones on that. Very controlled ending on the song as well, but the trumpets weren't quite together on that last note. So just a couple things, small things that Southern needs to tighten up on. Then they got into the dance routine. And I got to say, there's just something about Southern in terms of a dance routine. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know what they do, but there's a liveliness and there's an energy that Southern always has. I've never seen Southern do a dance routine that looked boring. But the thing about it is they're also not as uniform as Bethune is. You know what I mean? But yet when they dance, you kind of take in everybody doing their own thing in a good way versus some other bands when they do it and some person's really getting it and some other person just kind of going through the movements. It kind of takes away. It detracts. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. I
You
know
know,
exactly what
it's,
you're talking about.
it's like you're watching a whole bunch of people all doing their own thing in their own way, but every single person is getting it. They're getting it. You know what I mean? And it makes you hype. And I just have never seen Southern, be unhyped during a dance routine. A lot of people think the dance routines are a thing of the past, but not in terms of Southern. They're gonna do it.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
after that, again, going back to show planning, they kind of went to a slow song after that, and I don't really know why. Just didn't seem to fit. It seemed to really, they could have just ended their show, honestly. They even brought out a bunch of extra dancers, like the larger people. They had like a small guy to come out, and then they had like some big guy run from off the sideline, so he wasn't even playing, I guess. And unless he, came off the field earlier and like moved the small guy out the way, and he started dancing. And I'm over that, Joe.
Yes. I don't
I've
blame
been
you.
seeing that. I've been watching bands since 1993, and the number of times that I've seen, the big people come out there and do a dance, or the white guy come out there and do a dance or something like that. Come on, man. I'm tired of it. We're better than that. We're better than this. And so I kind of felt like those things the slow song and then that just kind of took away from the bite and the edge that they were really having. Then they came in with a sideline blowdown, which again, I wish that Southern had done. And they had this really cool trombone solo, da, 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 and then the rest of the band came in. It's like, yes, that was cool. So for Southern, for them to get that winning spot, it was a combination of them first getting down on the basics. Marching style was great. 8 to 5 was great. Their sound concept, whatever that is, they believe in their sound concept and everybody does it. So they got the basics down. And then number 2, energy in their performance. High energy drill. High energy dance routines. Playing the music with a ton of energy. And then show planning overall, except for those last 2 bits, was very good. So they really had the package. They were able to wake up the crowd and really run away with honestly what should have been Jackson State's victory. So that's all I got to say. Like I said, I will go back, and whether we do another show or not, I will at least try to give additional attention to those bands that were facing away from me, so I can give them a little bit more of a fair Prunalysis. So what else do you have? In our block band meetings, I always say, what questions or comments do you have for me?
Let me give a round of applause. Always enjoy the Prunalysis because you're getting a perspective from a musician. So much of our discussions was like you said, well, who was loud and all of this, and then a lot of it is, that's my band. I just don't like that band. So to actually, hear you give a breakdown of that, I've always enjoyed that. I always like reading the prune juice from the forums. So I appreciate you, man. I'm really happy we got this partnership here. I do want to give again a shout out to the people in the chat room. Shank Rock. Shank Rock giving some support. So thanks a lot, man. Thanks for checking us out. I do want to go back. Someone said, Scarfinger said that Southern lost a drum major. He said he didn't pass, but they announced him, and then he was gone. So I guess something will happen with that. We don't know the whole story. I'm sure Bridget knows, and Bridget will tell us this weekend. But I did want to say that I do think that you definitely have a way of at least definitely describing the uniformity. I think that's important. The other part, when you talked about, and I'm gonna speculate here. It's hard because people know I'm like so Jackson State, and they not necessarily gonna think I may be objective. But I think when you were talking about the sound, I still think it's the music program there at Jackson State, having an orchestra and having a lot of the advances that maybe Southern doesn't have. However, again, from Bridget, I believe his name is Kedrick Taylor. That's the director there. He is actually doing a lot to change that. So developing Southern's concert band and developing the overall music program. Because, from what I've learned being with you and being with, I'm starting to slip people's names. He wrote How to Build, it is, How to
Kevin
Build
Davenport.
Your High School. Kevin Davenport, Brother Davenport. Our very first director series, by the way. He even said it in his book. Your marching band is the dressing, but it is definitely a reflection of your music program. And I don't think people really know that to a certain degree. I think some people do. But I think from what I am hearing, Kedrick Taylor is really doing what he can to change Southern from, like you said, that brick that hits you in the head. He's doing a whole lot more. Yeah. Sharp brick. Like, he's doing more to change things. So, really glad that they're doing well, and that makes it exciting for the Boombox coming up this year. I do want to hear more about Prairie View's announcer and what went on with them and what happened. But surprised to hear people dogging Miles like they were. And again, I have to check out the show, but just because I like Brother Snipes, I'm going to be halfway like, well, I don't see what's wrong. But I did see people talking about the show. And then overall, I guess to make it full circle, it is very close to band camp to have a major battle of the bands. Just my opinion. But even in Charlotte next week, that's going to be, there's some major bands coming to that one too. But it's still early. It's still August. You know what I'm saying? I still kind of like to hear the stuff at the end of the year where people have had their season. The people who are going to be in the band are in the band. I think someone said the Boom's got like 300 people. That's like crazy to me. So we'll see if they keep those people or how it goes. But I would like to see like another battle of the bands kind of prop up. And maybe, and maybe this is when Pepsi is doing their thing. But I would like to see a battle of the bands when the bands have had a couple games under their belt. They've got their full book, for the year of what they're gonna do. I feel like it's a better time to have.
Okay.
That. Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to say a couple things about stand battles real fast. I'm not going to say everything. Is that if we have time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm just going to mention three bands real fast. Four bands real fast. The first one, the opening number was Not Like Us, They Not Like Us by Southern. And man, them baritones at the end, woo doo 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 doo. And as much as those euphoniums were giving it to us, they were filling up that stadium. Them tubas just came in there. I don't know if you're a big Star Wars fan, Phantom Menace,
No.
where monsters attacking them, and then a bigger monster attacks them, and it says there's always a bigger fish, and that's exactly what happened with those tubas. Them tubas just swallowed them euphoniums like God dang, but they were sounding great. But I got to give credit to Bethune-Cookman. They were literally right next to Southern, and they were playing the first song and the second song respectively. You would think that Bethune-Cookman would sound significantly smaller than Jackson, not due to the numbers, but because they don't play in the stratosphere of the tessitura, the instruments.
Right.
But no, they were competitive with Southern, and they play in a much lower range and a much more comfortable range in their instruments. And it's like, wow, they sound big and full. They're not as loud as Southern, but they definitely didn't sound like a punk. They didn't sound small at all. So I definitely have to give credit to Bethune for filling up, those horns even on those low notes. Thirdly, credit to Jackson State, overall the best sounding band in terms of stand battles. Just the balance, hearing every section, the trumpets, the mellophones, the trombones, the baritones, the tubas, the piccolos. You didn't hear the saxophones or the clarinets, but all those other sections, you really heard all of them, very very well. So much props to them on that. And then lastly to Tuskegee, I did have the opportunity to hear them from the front when they were playing in the stands, and they impressed me. That wasn't the sound that I'm used to hearing from Tuskegee.
Right.
Tuskegee a number of times throughout the years, and they didn't sound like what I heard the other day. By the way, I'm sorry, there's one thing I forgot about Tuskegee. They did do a shout out to the guy that started the Ball and Parlay.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that was pretty classy. Because of course Ball and Parlay is really what has helped to put Tuskegee on the map.
On the map.
Several videos of them playing and their student section just going crazy right there to that song. And so for them to take a moment out to recognize his passing and to do a little something special for the family, and even have the school president out there to do that, I thought that was classy. So and then they started to play the whole song, so that was cool. So kudos to Tuskegee on that. All right, but that's it. That is the Prunalysis. I've never come out here to tell anybody who got blasted on or y'all got stuck in the rear or anything like that. I'm gonna tell you exactly what happened, and I'm gonna just tell it what it is.
All right, let me give you a round of applause. Again, I appreciate your time. Appreciate us getting back on things. You have, you did a good job, but also too, with you and I being 3 hours apart, trying to organize this thing and get it together. Because I know I'm looking at my clock. The sun is still out over here in California, but it's 9, almost 10 o'clock over there.
Yeah,
so,
I'm late. I'm late for my company's meeting.
yeah. I wanted to give you props for that, man, and I appreciate what you do trying to, get our programs on the map. So that's all we have for the show. I'll let you wrap it up. I know that we're also planning to talk about with Christy and Bridget on Saturday, because they wanted to give, they wanted to talk about what they thought, but they also wanted to talk about the experience being there. So for all of those listening, and I'll pub it as best as I can. We'll be back on Saturday, probably about 6 o'clock Eastern time, talking about.
They would be here. They would be there. I wouldn't be there. I'll be on my way to Memphis.
Yeah, I remember. So that's why I'm glad that we got this in. And then I'll reach out to you next week, Thursday. My old lady doesn't work from home, so I know it's still gonna be a challenge about getting the kids. Because when you said 4:30, when you said 7:30, which is 4:30, that's actually when I pick up my kids from school. My son's school has esports now, and so he is beside himself crazy right now. And so they have esports practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they get out at like 4:30. So I'll reach out to you next week and see what we can do about Charlotte. But yeah, I definitely appreciate you, man. This has definitely been a good friendship, good partnership, and I'm gonna continue to pub block band music as best as I can. You guys can see on our main screen there for all you people, all the sponsors down there below. We're not running the commercials right now. We're still figuring that out, how we'll do that. But Rashad, I appreciate you, man, and glad that you're healthy and doing better. And I'm glad that you're back on the horse. And hey, man, I hope I get to see you in California.
There you go. I hope so too, buddy.
Yeah. And shout out to the people in the chat room. Shout out to Lamik's. Shout out to Shank Rock and Hood Finger. He said they be sweating in esports practice. I don't know. I know that my son come home. He be coming home hype, and I didn't even know too much about esports, but they pick the game that they're gonna play, and then they go compete against another school, which is crazy. You know, that's insane to me.
Right.
But hey, I mean, that's the time. So shout out to you again, Rashad. Man, I really appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. You guys, again, shout out to everybody listening to the show. I'm sure this will be up on YouTube and all of that. The whole streaming live thing. They now with Twitter, we can't stream live on Twitter unless we pay, which is kind of pissing me off a little bit. But Twitter's changed. The dude, what's his name, Musk, that got him take over Twitter. So he's doing a whole lot of stuff now as far as people putting their stuff out there. So we're still rolling with Facebook and Twitch and YouTube. And, you know, that's how we'll roll. So, again, thanks, everybody, for checking us out. That's all we have the time for the show. Check out our stream. Follow us. Subscribe to us. We're on all your major platforms, all the podcasts, especially on YouTube and whatnot. And we appreciate everybody checking us out and supporting us. We'll be back on Saturday again with Bridget and Christy to talk about what they thought about Houston. And we'll be continuing to pub these bands and promote everybody with much love, much respect. So again, thanks again. We'll be back Saturday, and you guys take care. And remember, the eye is a better pupil and more willing than the ear. Advice may be misleading, but examples are always clear. See you next time.
Peace.
you